thanks to AC Infinity and Seedsmans for sponsoring today's video. More about them at the end. What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are well and warm, kicking it fly today, baby, because we've got something to unweave this morning. I'm sure you guys have heard of the story that came out tail end of last year about a pilot, Joseph Emerson, that took magic mushrooms and then attempted to hijack an aircraft. Yeah, it kind of went under the radar for me as well, but it is back in the news again because the pilot is speaking out in regards to his experience and mindset while going through the entire event. If you hadn't heard of this before, you're not alone. This, like I said, just came back onto the radar. And to say the least, I've got a lot of questions to ask in regards to how on earth something like this can even happen and why are we blaming magic mushrooms? Joseph Emerson, 44, was facing depression, anxiety, didn't want to lose his pilot's license, so he didn't go to a doctor for traditional medication. Instead, he decided to double down on alcohol and take magic mushrooms. 2 days after taking magic mushrooms, he got onto an aircraft where he was given the privileged seat of being in the cockpit because pilots who are flying in between flights to go home have the privilege of sitting in this chair. The go chair, a jump chair, something like that. Once given the permission to sit in the chair, the flight takes off. Emerson then decides out of nowhere to go for 2 red handles on the cockpit roof that cut fuel supply to the engines. He's inevitably wrestled down by the co-pilot who gets him out of the cockpit and to the back of the plane where he's subdued, and they land the plane in Portland. Well, he's now speaking out because he's facing sentencing. He's facing 82 counts of reckless endangerment, and he's speaking out to give his side of the story. Well, I tuned in to a video about the entire incident, and it sounds like they're making this man out to be a victim. There's sad music, it's slow, it's kind of setting an emotional tone to the interview. Watch for yourself.
I did something unfathomable to me. Something I have to take responsibility for, and I regret.
This morning, Joseph Emerson, the Alaska Airlines pilot, now facing 84 charges after allegedly trying to take down a passenger jet in October, speaking on camera for the first time as he awaits trial.
Sarah and I would like our story to be of some value, right? We think it tells the larger story on pilot health.
Sarah and I would like to share our story. Motherfucker, you pulled the handles. Don't drag her into this.
It was last October when Emerson was catching a ride in the cockpit jump seat on a flight from Everett, Washington to San Francisco, when he says nothing felt real.
There was a feeling of being trapped. Like, am I trapped in this airplane? This is not real. I need to wake up.
Emerson says he had taken psychedelic mushrooms for the first time 2 days before the flight, thinking they might help with depression, but believes he was still hallucinating during that flight. He stood up and pulled handles in the cockpit that are meant to shut off the engines in the case of a fire. It didn't work, and if it had, that could have brought the plane down.
There are 2 red handles in front of my face, thinking that I was going to wake up, thinking this is my way to get out of this unreal reality. I reached up and I grabbed and I pulled the levers.
Did you know what the levers were at the time?
What I thought is, this is gonna wake me up. I know what those levers do in a real airplane, right? And I need to wake up from this. It's 30 seconds of my life I wish I could change, and I can't. Observe the pilots react to the difficult situation that I just handed. And I said, you guys want me off the flight deck? I'm off the flight deck.
He left the cockpit, listened to one of the pilots.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit.
Emerson says he then tried to grab the handle of an emergency exit door, but a flight attendant stopped him.
I put my hand on the lever. I didn't operate the lever. She put her hand on mine. And I think around that period is when I said, I don't understand what's real. I need you to tough cuff me.
In the air, he texted his wife.
You text me, I've made a big mistake.
And what were you thinking at that point?
I was like, what in the hell is he talking about? And I immediately got on FlightAware because that's how I can track him. And I saw that the plane was diverted. And I think I texted him back, is this because of you?
Emerson says he'd been struggling with some form of depression ever since his best friend Scott suddenly passed away, but didn't turn to a psychiatrist for medication, worrying a formal diagnosis could end his career. He instead turned to alcohol and eventually those psychedelic mushrooms in October.
Coming into this, I hadn't really been sleeping a lot the night that I took the magic mushrooms, and I did not sleep that night.
What did you just take?
The magic mushrooms.
The magic mushrooms.
The magic mushrooms, and I did not sleep that night. And so this cumulative sleep deficit, I believe, may have also impacted just my perception of what was going on.
Emerson now speaking about it all in the new documentary The New York Times presents Lie to Fly on FX, as he and his wife focus on increasing awareness about mental health in the cockpit.
Right now, there's a perception out there that if you raise your hand and say something's not right, there's a very real possibility that you don't fly again.
At least one doctor saying at an NTSB summit in December, it's time to modernize the mental health regulations for pilots.
Who would you rather fly with, a pilot who's depressed or a pilot who's depressed on medication? And that's what it comes down to.
I also think it's interesting that we are looking at a documentary of this individual in this incident. Was he paid for his time on this documentary? What about the victims that were on that plane that now suffer perhaps irreversible psychological damage after experiencing something like that on a flight? Where's their statement? Where are they getting to speak out? They have no voice on this. I also think it's interesting that there's such a sad tone. It really looks like they're painting this man out to be a victim.
And I'm better for it, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But I really am better for all of this. It's not the way I would have engineered, but I'm just doing my best today.
This is a hijacker. The question posed by one of the doctors at the board there, do you want depressed pilots flying planes or depressed medicated pilots flying planes? I don't want either of them flying planes. Why is that even a question? Should your mental fortitude not be perfect to pilot an aircraft? Why is this guy not in jail? Is it too far-fetched for me to think that someone like this should not be behind bars who's awaiting trial? Not a public threat? He just tried to take down an airplane with 84 people on it. Maybe I've got a misconception of what it takes to keep people in prison while they await trial, but I personally don't think that having him out is a smart decision. So I pass the question off to you. What do you think about this situation? He's now facing sentencing. This documentary is now dropping, and he's trying to spread awareness. Perhaps awareness can help, but I just don't think this is the guy to do it. That's the story. I think it's interesting that we didn't hear about this more often, but I also think it's a disservice that they're throwing the word magic mushrooms under the bus. The fact that it's an example like this that's being used to perpetuate the idea of magic mushrooms is heinous, is horrible. It's only going to give a very negative perception from people who don't know anything about this plant and its amazing healing properties. It's not going to do any good. And I don't think the magic mushrooms really has anything to do with this story, despite the fact that it's being pushed that way. He took them 2 days before the incident. Maybe it was the alcohol and the sleep deprivation, but I really don't think the mushrooms had anything to do with it. That's the story. I'm curious what you guys think about it. I want to hear about it in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be talking about this more in depth on Wednesday on Tea with P. If you haven't seen it, Wednesday night live show where we go over everything in the nudes, culture, science, health, you name it. It's all on the table for a great time of conversation. I will see you there 9 p.m. Central Wednesday night. Peace. And a huge shout out to AC Infinity for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking for some high-tech quality equipment for your tent, check out acinfinity.com. Whether it's their clip-on fans, the Gen 2s, their air circulation systems, or their lights, check them out at acinfinity.com. Use promo code PIGEONS420. You're going to save a few dollars off at checkout. You're going to help support the show, and you're going to get yourself some quality equipment. Also, a huge shout out to to Seedsman. If you're looking for some quality genetics from a quality place, check out Seedsman. Use promo code PIGEONS420. They're working with some of the best breeders in the game to hook you up with quality genetics. Check them out. Use promo code PIGEONS420 and thank them both for sponsoring today's video.